Hi, and welcome to the 87th TiddlyWiki Hangout. I'm Jeremy Ruston, the original creator of TiddlyWiki, and I'm joined today by, from left to right on my screen, Eric. Eric, would you like to say hi and introduce yourself, say where you are, and say something about your work with TiddlyWiki?
Okay, hi, my name's Eric Schulman, and I'm located in Silicon Valley out in California, and I am the creator of TiddlyTools, a collection of plugins for TWclassic. I'm also the author of Inside TiddlyWiki, the missing manuals. I'm also the moderator of the Google Groups, and yeah, and I do other stuff with TiddlyWiki too.
And indeed one of the people who's been around in the community for the very, very longest, I think. Next on my did you say where you are, Eric? I don't think you did.
Yeah, I said I'm in Silicon Valley.
Good. Next on my screen is Felix. Hi, Felix. Would you like to say hello, introduce yourself, say where you're from, and so on in the usual way?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Felix from Hamburg, Germany, and I've been using TiddlyWiki for about a year or so. And at the moment, my main contribution to TiddlyWiki is the TiddlyMap plugin.
Indeed, an amazing piece of work that I know lots of people rely on already. Jed, hi, would you like to say hello with the usual formula?
Hi, I'm Jed. I am currently in Albuquerque in the US, although soon, hopefully, I will be in Paris. And I make and sporadically maintain the Wiki Reference Wiki and use TiddlyWiki for my thesis research and for making stuff, just whatever I happen to make, I suppose. Hi.
Brilliant. Glad you could join us, Jed. And next, Mario, would you like to say hello?
Hi, my name is Mario Pitsch from Austria, near Salzburg. Contributed to TWclassic a little bit with plugins. Yeah, and using TiddlyWiki for different stuff, for most of my notes, and also posting my bookmarks and all the things. So contributing a little bit in the Google Groups too.
Indeed. So our first four guests who have introduced themselves are all stalwarts of the TiddlyWiki community who make enormous contributions all around the project. We're also delighted to be joined by Mark Grant, who is new to the Hangouts and new to TiddlyWiki. And so I warned him beforehand that there's a terrible risk of brain explosion as we all go off in 100 directions. But Mark, would you like to introduce yourself in the same way as the others?
Sure. I'm Mark Grant, and I'm in South Carolina, Simpsonville, close to Greenville, a bigger city. My previous work was at Ahold, global grocery retail. And did that for 6 years, and then I was e-learning architect for Ahold. Then from there I went to Plateau, which became SuccessFactors, and that is now they've all been bought too. So big company and lots of global travel, and but I created content, e-learning content. So Wiki can be very beneficial in that realm. So that's why I'm going into it.
How did you? What made you? Do you know how you were introduced to TiddlyWiki?
Through XAPI.
Oh, okay. Right, yes. The project earlier this year, which is slightly, sadly, interrupted by me being poorly and then needing to go out and do paid work, but something that I'm still very much hoping to return to. Now, Mark, one further thing I should have mentioned before the Hangout started is generally it's best to mute your microphone with the icon at the top when you're not speaking, because Google, in its infinite artificial intelligence wisdom, if it hears the slightest sound, it assumes you're speaking and switches to you, which is sometimes a shock to you and not always expected if you're just eating a crisp. Now, today I have, for the second Hangout running, we've created a wiki with an agenda. So let's start by looking at that, and then viewers, even after the event, you ought to be able to see this. So the URL is hangout-87.tiddlyspot.com. There's a link back to the Hangout on Google+. And here are the items that I was hoping to speak about. If you're looking at this in the future, then there might be more things on it, or there might be fewer things on it if we don't manage to make it through all of this. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was, very quickly, TiddlyCamp Paris. So Sylvain, who's a French TiddlyWiki user, about 4 months ago started to organize a meetup for TiddlyWiki users in Paris. We went through all the hurdles of trying to find somewhere for us to meet and so on, and eventually we had a very nicely organized event on the 6th of June in what I took to be this kind of like a science museum on the edge of Paris, just inside the périphérique. Please excuse my ignorance of French geography. And there were, I think, about 8 of us there. I'll show you the photographs in a moment. And it was, for me, well, obviously, what could be nicer for me than sitting in a room surrounded by people who want to talk about TiddlyWiki? But the fact that we were doing so half the time in a foreign language that I speak really badly was kind of fun. The guests were amazingly gracious in dealing with my poor French, and I got that, every opportunity to demonstrate how poor it was, but also had the fun of hearing French people talking about TiddlyWiki, which obviously is mostly sounds like French, but with the occasional interjection of tiddler and that kind of thing, which I'm sure we'd all find hilarious. So let me show you quickly I took a few photos. There's also some on the website that that Sylvain put together. Oh, I'm not screen sharing. So, sorry, Sylvain's website is here. So it's mostly in French, which I still get a great thrill from, and Google's offering us to translate it into English, which I think is too good an opportunity to pass up. And in fact, there is already a chunk of it in English, and Sylvain updated it with some photographs from the event. So you can see there's me, there's Sylvain. This is Xavier Cazin, who's for a long time been the main French translator of TiddlyWiki. And you can see there we are sitting around the table, rabbiting on in said mixture of English and other languages. Over here, my photographs included, I don't even know if this will work whilst I'm, yes, a time lapse of the rather extraordinary building that the event was held in. And here you go. You can see arriving in the room where the event was held. Anyway, this was, I think most of these photographs kind of repeat what you already saw. Well, the name of the place, which I say escapes me, is the place where this massive iconic thing is, a planetarium, I believe it is. Anyway, so those links are there for anybody who wants to look at those photographs and indeed that peculiar video in more detail. It was a really fun event. I mean, I'm immensely grateful to Sylvain for putting the effort into organising it, and indeed picking me up from the airport and helping me through the Parisian rail system, which was very, very kind of it. And it was really fun. Couldn't recommend it highly enough. As you know from earlier Hangouts, I have organised a few TiddlyWiki gatherings here in Oxford. The last one was, I think, more than a year ago now, so it's something I probably ought to try and get off the ground again. But I'd really, well, certainly going to the Paris event made me think again that it would be a fun and worthwhile thing to do. And so for the rest of you, I would encourage you to consider how much fun you might have with a TiddlyCamp Silicon Valley, a TiddlyCamp Mid-Atlantic Ocean, probably in Jed's case, Hamburg, and so on. So moving on, I wanted to just touch very briefly on the 5.19 release. People watching this in real time may remember that at the beginning of the week on Tuesday, Monday and Tuesday, I sent messages to the group indicating that the release was imminent. In fact, I fell ill on sort of Tuesday night, Wednesday, and then was off the map for 2.5 days. I'm a bit behind, but my new plan is to release 5.19 in the next 24 hours, in fact, probably ideally less than the next 24 hours. And so typical me, I've been making lots of last minute tweaks and changes. But for the most part, I think they're ones that are reasonably benign. But again, for those of you watching in real time, any opportunities you get to test out the current pre-release is much appreciated. So I'm so sorry, I moved on from TiddlyCamp Paris without saying, without asking if there are any questions about that. So any questions or thoughts about either TiddlyCamp Paris, doing TiddlyWiki meetups, how we might do more of them, better of them, or any questions or observations about the 5.19 release, do please fire away.
No, I was just going to say that I'm kind of sad that I wasn't there in Paris because I was supposed to be there for that, but I'm upset about that for other reasons too. So.
Well, it would, I mean, in one respect, Jed, if you'd been there, it would have shifted the axis in favor of the English speakers further. And I was slightly embarrassed about, obtruding with my, brash Englishness, and so. Maybe in a way, what it means is that we should do a London event where we can guiltlessly. That's really weird. Did somebody else approve that person who's just joined?
Oh, he's been here before. It's
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was just expecting to approve them, and that didn't happen. But sorry, Jed, I was going to say that we should do when you are in Europe, we should do a meetup that you can come to, and we should make it be an English language meetup so that we can unembarrassedly enjoy the pleasures of speaking English together. And Felix, if you feel the urge to start an event in Hamburg, you'll find that my German is even worse than my French, I'm afraid.
No, it's fine. We all speak English here in Germany.
That's
no
true.
problem.
German English is much better than French English. I'm sure that's true. Alex, sorry. In amongst the kerfuffle, I failed to say hello. Give you a chance to introduce yourself. Do you have a microphone today? Okay. You're right though, Felix. I remember Alex joining before. So sorry, anything else about Paris meetups or the 5.19 release? Okay, so now I'm going to do a very quick demo of the new thing that I'm very excited about. Then I'm going to ask Felix to do a demo of the new things that he's very excited about. Then I'm going to ask Jed to do a demo of the new things that he's very excited about, which I don't think I've had a chance to ask you if you're okay to do that, Jed, but I absolutely demand that you show us the resume thing. And then you'll see on the wiki that I've picked out a piece of writing of Jed's from the group that I thought was particularly good and would stimulate an interesting discussion. So we'll go straight in selfishly with my piece first, but it's 13:24. I'm mindful of the need to give you all lots of room, but if I go first, I can be really quick, I think. So, I should first, the context is, this is TiddlyFox. I first did TiddlyFox in 2011, and I did it just before I started TiddlyWiki 5. So the prompt was when it became clear that Firefox was dropping access to the APIs that TiddlyWiki had used for saving changes for many years. And that would have been a catastrophic problem for TiddlyWiki, because it's always been clear, that most people who use TiddlyWiki do so as a single file in the browser. And so losing that capability in Firefox, which has historically been the browser that's TiddlyWiki's best friend, would have, back in 2011, I think, killed TiddlyWiki. But I did some digging around, and I mean, other people I think had already done add-ons for Firefox, but I knew that an add-on for Firefox could be written that would enable saving. And so I lashed together the first version of TiddlyFox without really knowing very much about the Firefox add-on SDK, which was appallingly badly documented at the time. And so as a result, TiddlyFox, although it does the most important thing, which is to allow you to save changes in Firefox without any additional clicks, it has no user interface beyond that. It's got, in fact, a bad user interface. When you open a page, a TiddlyWiki page in the browser, you get, well, let me show you. So this is current TiddlyFox, and I'm guessing probably that most of the people on this, most of the people here probably use TiddlyFox. So here's, you can see the chaos of my desktop. Okay, so sorry, that rather laboriously was me locating a TiddlyWiki 5 HTML file, which I'm now going to drag to Firefox. And Firefox, I was instantly enabled it for saving because it already knows about that file. So I'm going to take a copy of that file, paste it onto my desk in my downloads directory, and I'm going to rename it and drag it to Firefox. Okay, and so now Firefox, when I switch, wow, and I've renamed it to something that I've already saved before. Okay, so finally a file name. Okay, forgive me. That demo hasn't worked because TiddlyFox isn't installed. So I think maybe I disabled it. Forgive me. No. Oh, it's because I was doing some testing the other day. Okay, so perhaps we should pull back from that. I'm so sorry to do a poorly prepped demo. So I was trying to show you how TiddlyFox works at the moment. Perhaps when if either Felix or Jed are doing their demo, they might be able to show you the current TiddlyFox. So poor UI. Currently, TiddlyFox doesn't take backups. That's a fatal problem and is leading people to lose data, and I feel really bad about that. And secondly, it doesn't do any of the kind of useful things that it could do, such as being able to clip content from a web page, put a thumbnail of the web page, and so on into a TiddlyWiki. So enormous opportunities to improve it. Then I discover that Firefox is Mozilla are making major architectural changes which break the original version of TiddlyFox. So very long, laborious story. Multiple reasons why TiddlyFox needs to be rewritten, and rewritten now. And the prompt for me starting work on this was that I had a few days where I was going to be away from the internet, but able to get time onto my laptop. And so that gave me enough time to get the new version up and running. So it uses the newest Mozilla framework for writing Firefox add-ons, and it looks like this. So run JPM run to run it. So now what's happening is a blank instance with a blank profile of Firefox is being started. And you may have noticed this button appeared after all of the others, because basically there's a script that starts up Firefox and then injects your extension. So now there's a TiddlyFox toolbar button. I would say that the best place to put your TiddlyFox toolbar button is probably here, because it makes it, to me, more noticeable. But it turns out that, quite rightly really, add-ons themselves can't control the location of the button. When you press the button, the user interface is crude at the moment. It's not finished. It says this is not a local TiddlyWiki file, rather unnecessarily repeats the URL. And if I drag in a TiddlyWiki file, like that, you can see there's no alert, and the icon subtly changes color. So it's gray when I'm here on a page that isn't a TiddlyWiki. And if I go to a page like TiddlyWiki.com that is a TiddlyWiki but isn't local, it still says this is not a local TiddlyWiki file. And similarly, it knows that Google isn't a TiddlyWiki file. But for a local TiddlyWiki file, you get the blue icon and a question: do you want to enable saving? And that checkbox allows you to choose whether or not that decision is remembered. And so if I ignore that and I make some changes, just in the usual way, I get a red button. And so the changes are kind of stacked up, so to speak. Now if I say enable saving, you can see the save button goes. It tells me saving's enabled. We get a green icon. We still get this checkbox so that I can disable the automatic enabling. Gosh, that was badly expressed. And now if I press the save button, you get the normal TiddlyFox experience, don't you? Gosh, don't say this is my second demo that's going to not work. Let me do a refresh. Wow. Oh, no, of course. Forgive me. Look here at all the errors. So, I don't know, this is a bit embarrassing. I've happened to be in the middle of debugging something and I forgot that I left it in a broken state. So, well, I'll leave the camera running and just whiz in to the right place to fix it, which is, I think, here. Right, so what I'm actually adding right now is the code for backups, and it happens to be completely broken at the moment. So forgive me, now I'm laboriously recreating where we were before. So now I open a TiddlyWiki file, I've got the blue icon, I say enable saving, and now when I create a new tiddler, you can see in the usual way it automatically gets saved. If I do a refresh, you can see that that most recent tiddler that I created 10 seconds ago is still there. If I uncheck that, then do a refresh, when it reopens, it's now blue, and so I'd need to re-enable my permission for that page. So that's the basic. Oh, there's one other feature which I think, which I've always wanted actually, which is, oh, is it doing that? Which is this, that if I open the same TiddlyWiki file more than once, you get a big banner injected into the TiddlyWiki, which goes away if you click on it, and you get a red icon there. So that prevents a problem that I've succumbed to before, where you inadvertently open the same wiki more than once, and then your changes get from one tab get overwritten by changes to another tab.
Jeremy, it detects the different tabs. Does it also detect different windows?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's supposed to. It turns, yes. I mean, the way that it works internally is a little surprising. There's basically only one button. The model that TiddlyFox wants to think about is that each tab has its own copy of the button that has a different state. but it's implemented in this perfectly reasonable way, I suppose, where you're very conscious developing it that there's just one button. So that means that one of the many classes of bugs that I've introduced while I've been working on it is exactly that kind of thing, where the panel gets out of step with which tab you're actually looking at. Anyway, one final thing to say about it is that developing under the new add-on SDK is an absolute dream. It's as easy for me as developing under Tiddly Desktop or Node.js. And in many cases, the APIs are the same. So Mozilla are trying to implement Node.js APIs. So this is great. This is, it feels, again, like another, it's not really another platform, but it does feel a little bit different than writing ordinary web pages. And, it's one that I'm intimate is quite easy. And there's none of this in the old add-on was using something called Zool, which is Firefox's internal layout language that was designed in 2004 to be better than HTML. And it's just a small, it's the work of a small group of people compared to what we've actually ended up with as an improvement on HTML. And Zool is nowhere near as good as HTML5, and the new APIs are entirely HTML5 based. So sorry, that took me 12 minutes, but there's TiddlyFox 2.0, and my plan is to release it as soon as backups are implemented. But then I might try and stay on it before switching, main focus to something else, to try and do at least a little bit of the clipping functionality that I think is, is a very popular thing. Any thoughts, questions?
I have a small question.
Mm-hmm.
Am I muted or no?
No, I can hear you. Sorry, Felix.
Okay. I just wanted to ask: are there any plans to have a similar thing like TiddlyFox for Chrome? Is somebody working on?
Wouldn't it be lovely? Not as I know of. So the problem, and this stuff changes all the time, but the problem historically has been that JavaScript extensions written for Chrome don't have full access to the file system. They're given access to a sandbox portion of the file system. So for a long time, my understanding has been that the only kind of Chrome extension that we could write would be one that kind of allowed you to work on TiddlyWiki files that were stored in its special folder. And as far as I know, its special folder can't be in your Dropbox folder, as part of the Chrome profile. So that always felt to me like just a cripplingly annoying restriction. It means it's as restricted as smartphone architectures were in 2009 in the early App Store days. Now, what is changing and is interesting is Chrome does have support, has always had support for native plugins. That's how they've supported things like Firefox, Flash, and so on. And their approach, and obviously those plugins are appalling. They're a terrible idea. They expose make your attack surface have random bits of third-party software in it, and so that's why things like WebEx and so on, the browser vendors want to drive them to WebRTC and standard technologies. And what am I trying to say? Oh, and this is about Chrome. That so Google are doing work on, I think it's called NaCl, which is a safe way to distribute native code plugins for Chrome. And so, from what I can read, what I have read, I think it may now be possible to do a tiny little, basically C++ module that does the low-level file access. That we then invoke from some kind of JavaScript extension that would give us full file system access. So it's an area that probably needs to be re-explored. Certainly at the time I did TiddlyFox in 2011, it was a deeply depressing story on the Chrome side, but I think it probably is a lot better now. It's so annoying, isn't it? I mean, Chrome is the browser that I prefer to use every day for testing. Anyway, I mean, maybe one of the things that will happen is Firefox will expose an HTTP server API. Then we'll be able to have a TiddlyWiki page in Firefox that exposes an HTTP API to Chrome, and then you'll use Chrome. We'll have the first two-tier client-side web application.
Okay.
On which happy note, I think I should pass over. Well, before I do, Alex is saying doesn't have sound but can hear us. Alex, welcome. Would you like to, if you can't speak, would you like to introduce yourself by text, and I will read what you type, which is deliciously sort of 19th century, isn't it? In the middle of our very 21st century meeting. Anyway, Alex, I'll leave you to do that and to introduce you after Felix has gone. Felix, are you ready with your demo? I should introduce it, actually, yes. Very briefly if I can. That Felix's involvement with, well, I don't know about it, Felix's involvement with this project, as far as I'm aware of, or from my perspective, it's very interesting that somebody else had already taken the Viz.js plugin and integrated it with TiddlyWiki, but they hadn't, I think, exposed the functionality for lines and boxes diagrams. Felix came along, and I would think, compared to his current advanced state of TiddlyWiki hackerdom, whilst he was still a relative beginner, managed to lash together the Viz.js plugin and TiddlyWiki with, not just in a sense of making it work. So if you're familiar with the integrations I've done with D3 and something else, are little more than proofs of concept, really. But Felix took this map functionality and has turned it into something extremely functional and useful. And the so really nice part of the story is it's about bringing together two projects, and a lovely example of how you can add value by integrating things. You know, we need new things in the world, and making new things is really fun. But making the special kind of new thing that comes from combining two existing things is really awesome, because you get this, you know, the power of the two things multiplies, if not some kind of Googleplex power law together. And it's also the area that Felix is exploring is an area that I've always really been interested in, and so it's lovely for me to be able to sit back. And I think it's fair to say that, you know, the path that Felix is plotting out, he's graciously allowed himself to be driven by the community. He's taken a great deal of feedback. There's been a lot of interest in his plugins, and yeah, it's turned into one of the really interesting success stories of the TiddlyWiki community over the last few months. So no pressure then, Felix, as I hand over to you to start your demo.
Well, you made a big announcement, and I haven't really prepared a demo, but maybe I can show you some stuff I'm working on.
Yes, indeed. I mean, I think the last time you showed us what you would have been quite a few months ago, and I'm aware you've had many updates since then. And we also actually would like to see the two other things that I've listed in the agenda, the HotZone plugin, which I know is used in TiddlyMap, and also perhaps just to talk about the underlying Viz.js plugin.
Okay, so I would just, I don't know, what can we start with? Okay, this is the, I will just move this away. So is my screen perfectly visible?
Yeah.
Yes, that's okay.
Yeah. So yes, this is the TiddlyMap demo site, and at the moment it's a version that is still 12 days old, because I'm still working on the migration to Viz.js 4.0 or 4.3, because they released a few patches, and this is still using Viz.js 3 dot something. But well, should I just say something about the progress on TiddlyMap, or should I?
Well, I think it's. I mean, it would be interesting to to show it to us as if you're showing it to Mark for the first time, even just to explain why you did it, what you're hoping to achieve, whether it's meeting your needs, that kind of thing. It'd be really interesting in an update on
that. Speaking on that, I forgot to say, I released a few videos on YouTube, some introductory videos, And maybe this is a good place to show this. Oh wait, let's search for YouTube. And I did this especially as introduction to show what TiddlyMap is capable of and how you can use it in your, I don't know, daily life. I created a fictive example and built a story around it and tried to show some aspects of TiddlyMap, and I will just search for it. Yes, and probably the best thing to start with is having a look at these basic videos. I think at the moment there are 6 of them. And I try to cover all the basic stuffs like creating a map and how to put nodes into your graph and how to go full screen or half screen, how to place icons into the nodes and all this. So I think this is a very good place to start with if you're a beginner.
That's cool.
Yes, I don't know, I don't start the videos now, but if
I
like,
must say, I also tremendously admire you for. I try to do screencasts. I find it very difficult. I admire you enormously for being able to do 6 on the trot like that.
Yes,
I was going to say you've got quite a few viewers as well, which is great to see.
Yes, it was quite a quest to create these videos because in the first place I thought, okay, you can just shoot them one take, and then I realized no, it's very difficult. You need a plot, and then I started creating a plot because I realized, okay, you cannot just create a story out of your head in the very moment you are shooting the video. So I started to think, okay, what can I talk about? How can I fill the content of the tiddlers? How can I make the story progress? And I mean, it's not a very creative story, but I use for my demonstration. But I think it's necessary, and it took some time to develop it. Yeah. So I created these videos and I put them on YouTube, and I also tag them with aspects, or I try to use keywords that are not only focusing on TiddlyWiki, but also for a broader audience to attract more people to TiddlyWiki. Yeah. So I think the problem is always people use TiddlyWiki, but never use keywords that go beyond TiddlyWiki. So I try to be really broad or I mean, not broad in a way that I use random keywords, but broad in a way that I incorporate words like concept map and visualization and I don't know, stuff like this. So yes, these are some videos that are nice to watch if you're a beginner, and they cover all the basic aspects like that you can work full screen. And wait, I need to allow this one. And how TiddlyMap behaves when you are in full screen, that you can edit the tiddlers from full screen and not from the river. And yes, stuff like that.
That's really cool.
It's covered in the video, so I don't want to duplicate my content here. But it's I try to think how, I mean, TiddlyMap works really well together with TiddlyWiki in the way that you have a map in the sidebar, and then you can see the tiddlers in the river and edit them there. But I thought it's maybe for people who want to be creative in, who need space for their creativity. Oh, now I clicked on all tiddlers. That's not good.
Oh,
a galaxy.
Yes. So now if you are, for example, here, I can double click here and the dialog will open, and I can either add a new tiddler, like I can search the list, it will give me the matches, but I can also create a new tiddler if it's not in the list, and I click OK, and then it's added just like you are using Xmind or a similar software, and it looks like you are in a mind map editor, And if I double click, I can edit the tiddler from here. I can give it a color. I can, and what's interesting is if I, let's just add some text here and click OK. And when I exit the full screen, the whole history is it's in the story river because they are inserted in the story list. So you are seamlessly continuing working when you exit the full screen, because everything you did in the full screen will also be in the river in the correct order.
And if we looked in the DOM tree, the river's still there. It's just that you full screened the panel over the top. Brilliant.
I was just hiding it, correct. And another feature I introduced was the half screen, which is hiding the sidebar. And in this case, this is okay. This is a big tiddler about version history, but in this case, it uses the whole space of the sidebar, and this is also quite neat if you need more space to visualize the nodes. If you have more than 5 nodes, it makes sense, and you can always exit. So I created 2 possibilities to use more space: full screen and half screen, and yes. And then one thing I wanted to show you, because it's quite essential for TiddlyMap, is a new HotZone plugin I created. And what it does is so let me open the plugins. Where is it? Does it say HotZone somewhere?
Yes, above, 2 above.
2 above, Markdown. Oh yeah, okay. Sorry. And what it does is, you can see here a configuration. You have a focus offset, which means if a tiddler frame reaches this offset, then it will trigger an action. It will regard this tiddler as being focused and write this information, extract the title, and then write the information into a tiddler, which will then trigger a change.
And this is 71 pixels from the top of the screen.
Right. And this is 71 pixels from the top of the screen. And so, for example, if I'm using the live view, and the live view, as Mario said, it's using this one. And if I go to, okay, 1 second, let me restart this. I don't know. As I said, I didn't prepare a demo, and maybe something is now not working at the moment. But
well, after what happened with my demo, it is probably
yes. Okay, so now I played around too much at the moment, but after a fresh restart, I think it will work. And 1 second, let's give it a chance to. I think it's too much for my laptop to have have a Hangout at the moment. But what it does is it every time a tiddler frame reaches this threshold, it will trigger an event, and it will also assign a CSS class to the tiddler frame. So this can be used to I don't know. You can say a tiddler frame that has this class. Draw a background, a red background, and this can be used for often when you have a big screen. Sometimes it's hard to see where I don't know where the focus is when after scrolling. So then you can highlight this. You can do a little animation, and this is what I'm using this for. And I use it in the live view as well to update the graph when a tiddler reaches this threshold. Yeah. If
it's a performance problem with your machine, can you instruct me so I can reproduce it? I'd really like to see it working.
This is on the online demo. You can just go to bit.ly/TiddlyMap, and it's already used there. It's a plugin online, and I use it in the demo. And I use it for a small effect. For what I do is a very soft highlighting for 2 seconds. It softly highlights the tiddler, makes it slightly yellow, and then it disappears again. So just a quick flash for the user.
Yeah, and it activates the map on the right
side.
And
it activates
it's
the map,
most visible interaction.
Okay, so I'm on live view now. So if I just scroll, is that going to do it, or do I need to do more? Oh, wow! Okay. That's amazing.
Yes, it's a simple trick, but what I do is I extract the tiddler title from, we have a DOM field where the title is stored.
Yeah.
So what I do is I simply, on every scroll event, I did some optimization here, so it's not on every scroll event, but every third or fifth scroll event that is triggered. And I extract the title, and then I check, is there a change? Is the previously focused tiddler the same as the one we are looking at the moment? And if it's not, then I update the focus. And with that, I can dynamically assign the class.
It's very cool. And it really interests me because obviously one can't help but observe how scrolling is becoming a primary interaction technique, and people are being introduced to user interfaces that use scrolling as the primary means of navigating. And what you're doing here, so it's something I've thought about a lot, and the approach. Oh, hang on, turn the camera back on. The obvious approach is, well, an obvious approach is to listen to the scroll events and then set a tiddler at regular intervals to the to reflect those tiddlers that are visible. So I think the ideal thing would be to do an intersection with the viewport and to be able to tell the topmost tiddler that's most visible, but also a list of all the tiddlers that are visible. And then, as you've done, one would, I'd thought, one would be able to do feedback like indicate in the open tab which tiddlers are currently in visibility, and maybe on all links. Anyway, lots of flexibility that comes from it. My concern has been performance, because at the moment the refresh cycle is sufficiently slow that we wouldn't really want to invoke it on every scroll event. Although in fact JavaScript. John,
sorry, I experienced the same, and this is why I only fire a change event if an actual change happened. I mean, not just on every scroll. I did this in the very beginning, and of course it slows down everything. But so I did some optimization here. I check if the focus actually changed, and if it's changed, because if you usually if it's a tiddler which has some content, then it's not a problem, because then tiddlers rarely change by scrolling. I mean, you have let's say you have 3 or 4 tiddlers in the river, and you need some time to scroll. And if it's not firing on every scroll, then it works quite well.
I'm just okay. So your plugin distribution scheme. I was just leafing through the source code to just glance at the code that you're talking about. But you've got an interesting way of distributing the plugin. Interested to see that. I think we need to publish more best practices for people at setting up GitHub repos for various purposes. But I can see the way that, for instance, the fact that you're doing minification means that you've got a different setup than most people would. It's good to share that.
I try to be very consistent with all my plugins. I mean, have a distribution folder, and which beforehand I do minification for the distribution.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, look, I was going to say, after Jed's stuff, seeing so seeing several aspects of your work reminds me that we really must try to do a better job of folding all this stuff together, because what you've got there with TiddlyMap is an amazing enhancement of TiddlyWiki, but one particular thing, that it really changes something fundamental about TiddlyWiki. It means that it's reasonable for people to approach it as a mind mapping tool. And without TiddlyMap, we could say, and have said, that it's like a mind mapping tool. But that literally makes it a mind mapping tool.
And it's especially great if you have a big screen. So
yeah, no,
you need a big screen, otherwise it doesn't have the full power.
But sometimes I look at mind mapping software on the iPad, and some of it is terrible. And I look at this, and because Viz.js receives so much attention, quite rightly, it's an incredibly slick piece of work. I mean, much sleeker and nicer than the iPad mind mapping tools that I've seen. But as said, to me, the obstacle at the moment is that if you approach TiddlyWiki.com, you could explore till you're blue in the face without finding that this exists. And we've discussed endlessly that what we would like is for people to be able to choose from a menu of editions, and one of those editions to be a mind mapping edition. And it couldn't be. That's how accessible we ought to be able to make this stuff, that people are just choosing the correct big green button, for the set of tasks that they identify with. And I think mind mapping, beautifully speaks to a lot of people. There's a lot of people who would self-identify as being interested in mind mapping. So that's what I think we need to do, is to figure out how we're going to get this stuff into the plugin library. So there's a ticket on that, on the difficulties of doing that.
I think it would be great if, I really like the fact that the plugin library at the moment really evolves, because now Kicksam and his timeline plugin is depending on the Viz.js library as well. And these dependencies and this modular structure, it's worth investing some time in this, because I think this is the way to go, and this is how eventually things will be very modular in terms of plugins. So I think it would be great if the plugin library would also have a very neat dependency mechanism in the future. Because at the moment it's hard to communicate. You need to drag 4 tiddlers into your wiki, and then then you install the plugin. And Kicksam always points to my wiki and says you need to install the Viz.js plugin from there, and it's quite distributed. So a new user might think, okay, this is quite hard, but it's not. It's a very easy mechanism that TiddlyWiki offers you, but
Well, one thing to say is that the plugin library implementation that we have at the moment, which doesn't support dependent tiddlers, does intentionally, all of the data paths within it are about bundles of tiddlers. So it is possible to create a plugin library entry that, when selected, installs more than one tiddler, which is the basic underlying requirement that we need for this stuff to work. My concern with the dependency stuff is something I think that has come up before, which is that I've lived through Windows DLL hell, and Windows DLL hell was the well-meaning attempt to save a few kilobytes probably of disk space by avoiding duplicating shared code. And the fundamental problem, Felix, is version creep. That as long as both of your Viz.js plugins are on the same version of Viz.js, we're golden. But the second one of you upgrades and the other one doesn't, if we've created a complex system based around them both sharing the same instance of Viz.js, then we need to break that or extend it or make it even more complicated to allow us back to the situation where they have their own separate versions. And you know, I think I probably place a lot of emphasis on this kind of. I've seen so many people join and leave the TiddlyWiki community. It kind of sounds depressing, but it's really not. The continuous rejuvenation of the community is great, and people come back as well. So it's, you know, it's a great pleasure. But it means that always in approaching TiddlyWiki 5, this big concern has been to try to build a community infrastructure that could withstand that, could withstand people's occasional absence. Those are a bunch of concerns, but broad agreement that the plugin library needs to support dependencies.
And you just mentioned it. I had to do some. What?
There's a TiddlyMap entry on Wikipedia.
Yes, I wanted to refer to. I wanted to talk about it, but you just said something. I just wanted to underline, because you said you mentioned the version creep, or how you called it. I also needed to communicate a lot with Kixum, who is maintaining the timeline plugin, because he could not update unless I'm also ready for updating, because we both point to the same Viz.js plugin. So this is a very difficult issue.
I mean, to be honest, I think there's only two solutions. I think there's two solutions that both merit of being simple, and we know that they can work. And that is either for each of your plugins to integrate a separate version of Viz.js, and we just go, hey, that's equivalent to having, you know, an unwanted bitmap of that size, or you merge your plugins and you use GitHub as the mechanism for resolving, you know, the merged development, and that's not crazy. I mean, you know, there's obviously one of the things that is really important within the community is that the things that people make need to be kind of theirs to the degree that people can see that and recognize them and give them because the feedback that we get, and, you know, the acknowledgements and thanks and so on is a big part of, well, it's not, I don't think it would be a part of people's motivation, but it's a big part of the kind of feedback cycle of doing this. So I'm always wary of making suggestions that just fold everybody's contributions into a big thing labeled TiddlyWiki. And yet, what first-time users need when they approach the project kind of is a big thing labeled TiddlyWiki, and it's a long time before they're made by, you know, Mario, Felix, Eric, Jeremy, whoever, because that's, you know, an internal detail of the project. So I think there's a
Jeremy, your voice is very laggy, so at least for me.
No, there's other people getting that.
I thought it's my connection, yeah, but it's
experimentally. Sure.
Yeah, Jeremy, are you with Wi-Fi?
I'm on Wi-Fi. I'm going to change location and I'll actually just turn the camera off and I'll stay speaking and try and move without dropping much of my stuff. Bear with me.
You sound much clearer
now. Yeah, I mean, I normally do these hangouts in an upstairs room, and like most houses, the Wi-Fi is downstairs, but it's a house with fairly thick walls. But I did just get a new router this week, with amongst other things, the hope that it would make these easier to manage. Anyway, look, I've just hogged Felix's demo rather by blithering on about the scroll effects and the need to integrate the amazing resources of the TiddlyWiki community so that visitors to TiddlyWiki find them more easily. But any other questions or thoughts from anybody else? I'm just going to go back upstairs and get the other bits and pieces that I need while you do that.
I just wanted to mention that I tried to, as said, I wanted to attract people from outside the TiddlyWiki community. So I started putting on a Wikipedia page for TiddlyMap. And yes, I also, how to say, put myself in the list of existing mind mapping and concept mapping software. And so TiddlyMap is listed under free software. You need to scroll a bit, but where it is, it's right next to Xmind. And I think this is, I really want to attract, as I said, attract people from outside the community, and I think this is another approach doing that. And together with the YouTube videos where I use keywords that are I'm using words like concept map and similar words, and not only TiddlyWiki or TiddlyMap. So I think I just wanted to present that this is my work for attracting more people, dragging more people to TiddlyWiki. And I also recently installed the Google Analytics plugin for TiddlyMap for the demo site, and it's very interesting to see people come from all over the world. And I didn't expect that. I thought just maybe some people from Europe here and there, but it's actually quite distributed. So people from Canada, from Russia, from Australia. So it's very interesting to see that.
I'm now back. Felix, were you showing us there that having linked your TiddlyMap Wikipedia entry into the correct list, that you got lots of traffic?
Again, sorry, this time I didn't hear you.
Oh, am I still lagging?
No, it was fine. I think my connection somehow.
No, I was saying, is what you were showing us then that you, having added the TiddlyMap Wikipedia entry to the correct lists, that you got lots of traffic?
Yes, I get a lot of traffic from Wikipedia and also from the showcase of Viz.js. I mean, they put TiddlyMap on the showcase section of their site, and I think let me share this. It's audience behavior. Where's the actual map?
Acquisition. Oh, sorry, the map up there. Yes.
I think I put it on my dashboard.
Audience, yeah, something like that.
And where is it? I think the map needs some time to load, but you can see here the referrer URLs. Yeah. And it's coming from Wikipedia as well. Well, as said, I just recently installed the plugin, the analytics plugin, and requested map does not exist. Not sure why, but it's the whole world is blue. I mean, from every place I get connections, and this is quite interesting.
Yeah, I think it's well, again, it goes to what I was talking about before, that the personal bit, that if we aggregated all of your stuff into TiddlyWiki.com, you wouldn't get the same sense of this being your traffic. That this is a very direct measurement of the impact of what you've done. If we were, and nobody's proposing that we do this, obviously, by the way, but if we were to adopt a kind of completely integrated way of presenting TiddlyWiki stuff, then I think we'd need to somehow find some other numbers that would give you the same kind of insight into popularity, for want of a better word, that you're getting from Google Analytics at the moment. Mm-hmm. So there should be the plugin library. Should it have stat gathering? It's a very vexing question because there's obviously privacy implications. And yeah, there are some things that I think are perfectly reasonable. If there's a place that people visit on the internet to install a plugin, it doesn't seem to me to be unreasonable that is subject to statistical counting. You know, I don't think that's a big privacy issue, and that's kind of the sort of thing that I think we need.
Mm. One other thing I was thinking about was that maybe some non-technical users can start doing more screencasts on YouTube.
Yeah,
and I realized that it's quite easy to get a lot of how to say to I mean the keywords that are important for TiddlyWiki are not really reserved. It's not it's not about Britney Spears, but about, for example, concept mapping. And if you or about I don't know, I'm not creative at the moment, but how to upload your diary and host it online and make it downloadable for everybody. So this could be a topic, and I think this would attract more people who never heard of TiddlyWiki, but they look up diary and or personal online diary or download, and I think this would be it would be quite interesting to see how this could attract traffic, because it's very easy for also non-technical people to put up a video.
The points you make are very well put. So I would first agree. I think videos are really important. It's one of the best ways of telling a story. He says now telling a story looking like I'm a ransomer with a background. I'm in blackface and with a light background. And making videos, unfortunately, screencast I think is still too hard. What tools do you use, Felix?
I just use the tools available on Linux, which is, I think I use OpenShot, it's called, and a screencast recording program called Kazam, and it's both open source software.
Whereas on my Mac, I use quite expensive Mac software, but then I also use it for video editing. But the second thing to pick out besides video editing and what you said was, again, you were echoing this idea that we should primarily present TiddlyWiki to new users as a choice of editions, and that those editions should be targeting things that people are already doing and that already have communities and words that people search for, and that by riding on the back of those we can provide multiple sort of routes into TiddlyWiki. And I just whinged earlier about the need to integrate our offerings so that it's easier for people to find all the fabulous things in TiddlyWiki. What was I trying to say? That yes, sorry, I can't quite remember the point I was getting to there. I just had a distracting electronic right next to me. Anything else from? Sorry, Felix. Had you shown us everything that you were intending to show us?
Maybe one last thing is worth showing. It was a hard struggle, but a few months ago I completed this plugin, and it's the problem
Felix,
here is
Felix, you have to screen share.
Oh, sorry. Did I turn off my screen?
Already. Yeah.
Wait, let me turn it back on. Okay. So what this I'm basically working on 3 plugins at the moment, and one is of course TiddlyMap, Viz.js, and the HotZone plugin, and one important plugin is the TopStoryView, and what's interesting about this is that it always moves tiddlers to the very top. So if I click, if you see here task management 2.0, or let's scroll down a bit, and okay, now I need to switch off the red. This is annoying. I just wanted to demonstrate how the HotZone HotZone plugin can be used, but now it's turning everything red when I scroll. Oh man, I should not use a laptop for a presentation. It's very very slow. Okay, so if I click on tiddler icons as part of the graph in the open list, then what would usually happen is that it would only scroll until the title is seen, and the top story view always scrolls everything to the very top. So this is important for websites where the user expects stuff to appear at the very top, and also when also the last tiddler scrolls to the very top, even if there is a space below. So let's say I remove the whole space from the widgets editor options. One moment. So usually the situation is that there is not enough space to scroll. But what this plugin does, I mean to scroll it to the very top, but what this plugin also does is it looks at the very last tiddler and checks how much space is required to have it scroll to the very top. So when I click on the widgets editor option, the title of the widget, then it's capable of scrolling this frame to the very top because it puts some extra space below. And if I close the very last tiddler, it will realize that the last tiddler was closed, and to not have an empty wiki experience, it will jump to the next tiddler. But it doesn't look smooth at the moment because my computer is very slow at the moment, so it's very how to say, hacky. But this is I created this plugin to be used for websites, especially where you need to have content appear at the top. But I think it's very nice. Actually, I've been working with it for a long time now, or for a month or two, and it's very nice to have the content appear at the top. And yes, and that's it. I mean, it's not a big plugin, but I think it's a nice feature.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing is if you close the tiddler, then it scrolls to a tiddler which has actual content, and I think this is important for many users because it's kind of confusing if you close it for new users and then you have an empty view, even if there are some tiddlers open.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, that's nice.
I think the other thing I'd like to draw attention to with this that's really cool is it's an example of experimenting with changing quite fundamental behavior of TiddlyWiki from within a plugin. So one of my goals with the design of TiddlyWiki was to try to make it so that people weren't held back by changes to the core, because necessarily, you know, in a way, the bigger and more successful a project like TiddlyWiki comes, the slower the core development inevitably becomes, because backwards compatibility is more of a concern. There's more demands for attention and so on. And so in a way, one has to make that a virtue, and the potential virtue of that situation, sorry, I'll take my camera off, is that you have a chance to focus on quality. But obviously, that's all well and good, but if you're also holding back innovation in the community, then that's a disaster. So the whole idea of open source is this idea of permissionless innovation, and you know, in software, I guess that means particularly this idea that, well, for us, it means that people should be able to experiment with modifying fundamental bits of TiddlyWiki without forking the whole thing, which obviously if you fork the whole thing, you can literally change anything about TiddlyWiki, but just by changing a few tiddlers. So I'm really pleased to see a great example of kind of an invisible plugin. It just makes something that could plausibly be a core change, lets people experience it, lets the community have a chance to assess what a change like that would be like, because again, going back to the slow core theory, if we can call it that, user interface change, fundamental user interface changes to the core are amongst, they would be the most disruptive, most difficult changes we can make. But if they're worth making, I'd be quite prepared to make them. And it's by doing this, exactly what Felix has done, that we get the chance to experiment and discover whether it is possible. I'm sorry, whether it is sensible. Forgive me.
It's possible.
Yeah, I think that the things that makes the core slower is we have to make it configurable. Yeah, because I think I'm also the one that says, okay, I like animations, but I only like them once.
Yes.
So it's really nice to have them, and it has a wow effect, and it's great for demonstrating because people say, wow, this looks great. Yeah? But then if it lasts 3 seconds and you have to see it 1,000 times a day, it's quite some time, and that's why I want to switch it off. So that's why we have to make it configurable, and so the plugin approach is really great. Then you see, okay, a lot of people want it, and it can improve the core, and so we can include it into the core without any configuration. It's just there and it works. So this is a really good approach with the plugins. I like it.
Awesome. Felix, again, I think I interrupted you by ranting over the top of your demo.
No, I think I'm done. There's nothing more to show from my side.
Well, congratulations, Gam. It's really cool to see what you've been working on. I think I don't know if you know, but the funniest statistic about Eric, if I can put it like that, is that his Tiddly Tools site contains, as I remember it, 5 times more JavaScript than the core of TiddlyWiki Classic itself. So Eric's amazing career of augmenting and improving TiddlyWiki ended up, if it was a caravan attached to the back of a car, Eric's caravan was a 6-bedroomed house and the car was a tiny Volkswagen. And I think you're well on the way to going the same way, Felix.
Thanks.
So, next I was going to ask Jed, also, well, now you've had an hour's warning, Jed, to give us a demo. It was particularly the Tiddly Resume stuff that I wanted to see. Sorry, you haven't called it that, but the Resume stuff. But I conscious that there's been a lot of stuff that you produced recently, and I'd be very glad for as much of a tour of it as you can give us, Jed.
Okay, then yeah, I do have a few things together. We'll see what I actually do. Also, my connection has been very unreliable the last few days, so if I suddenly disappear, I am sorry. Let me get this screen share thing started. Alright, so
well, very tellingly, you did fade away whilst in the middle of telling us you might fade away.
Oh, yeah, well, sorry about that. So, anyway, in response
That's
to...
right, you're back again.
Oh, okay, good. In response to some things that were said on the board the other day about using TiddlyWiki for more than just the GTD and ebook things, somebody brought up Resume. And yesterday I was bored with what I was doing, so I threw together a little demo of what I think we could make. And so here's my little Resume wizard thing. And it is just a tiddler that brings you through a sequence of other tiddlers that ask for information. The resume title, which is creatively called Resume at the moment. And then you just fill in contact information and your objective. And with very brief explanations of what each section should be according to little things I was looking at online, so possibly not helpful at all. And you can add different sources of education. And then it will list them down here, and you can remove them if you want to. Education, there's skills and experience. Like I said, I was using a template that I saw online, so this is all very simple at the moment. And previous employment, and then at the end, it uses some templates to put it all together into a sort of nicely formatted thing. And Jeremy had suggested using a new feature that will be in 5.1.9 to open tiddlers in a new window, and that's what the print button will eventually do when that is released. But so there's the very basic part of it right now. It needs a lot of things, namely you need to be able to add new sections and rearrange sections and then selectively decide what's going to be in each section. My goal for this is to be able to have like everything that you could possibly ever want on any resume that you would make, like everything you've ever done in your life, sort of thing. And then you'll have a list of like a checklist, and you just check off the ones that you want to include in this resume that you are currently making, and then it will auto-populate it with the proper formatting. And I think that TiddlyWiki is a good form for that. And excuse me for a second, my phone is bugging me. Right, so that's the resume thing. Sorry, that was very quick.
I'm gonna resist interrupting because I made it so difficult for Felix, but I think this is enormously interesting.
I would think there is a new library which may be interesting. It's called pdfmake.org, where you can probably out from JavaScript create the PDF file, but yeah, in a programmatically way. I think it would be really interesting to create PDFs out of this resume then, because the standard printing of browsers is not very good. But yeah, this PDF, I copied it into the chat window, may be interesting in combination with this one.
Yes, I'm eternally hopeful that CSS will sort out printing headers and footers and so on, but it never seems to, in a practical way, get there.
The thing that I wanted to, that's the reason I'm doing more work on that, because I have there like a portfolio resume site myself, and at some point I was going to make no more resume things off of it. But so this will hopefully be more something in the not too distant future. But I wanted to check, which somebody actually commented on of my site. Shocked me because I think I've done it 3 times so far. And said that they want a commenting system, however you're supposed to say that name, to work in TiddlyWiki. And so it does not work well, but you can't just make it work pretty much out of the box. And let me see if I can find it. It can, in fact, work on TiddlySpot, which is something that people have said that they've wanted. So I put it together, and nobody said anything, which I was, if it ever says to load on this connection, which I was a bit surprised about, but that's there, and it does not look like it wants to load. So we'll ignore that now. And I think the other, oh yeah, there it is, sort of. You need to reload the page, which is the biggest problem there.
The demo gods have not been smiling on us today.
Oh, here it is. Yes. So, yes.
I think Jed's connection might be playing up.
Yeah, he appeared a second time in the users window.
Oh, yes. Let me unlock him. Well, while I don't know how long it'll take Jed to resolve this, so let me very quickly just share one other thing that's relevant to what Jed just showed us, which is actually I made a link to it here. Right, and Tiddly Resume. So this is a project from 2009 or so, done by Paul Downey when we were at Osmosoft, and I think this is very much at the same stage as what Jed just showed us, as in it could do with a good deal more pulish, but it shows the basic idea. And in Paul's case, we've got a theme menu. We can switch between different themes, and regardless of which theme we have, you can then edit individual sections in place. And there's this rather cunning way that individual bits of work experience can be edited, and you can add a new piece of work experience. So I thought it was interesting seeing Jed's thing reminded me of the existence of this, and the reason why they both exist is because it's a jolly good idea, I think. What, of course, neither of them do, but is a great opportunity, is to produce visualizations, the timelines, and that kind of thing, based on the content in the tiddlers that you enter. I think it makes a really good idea for a TiddlyWiki edition, because again, it's something that's fairly universally applicable, and because it's so simple, it's also a great demo for people who want to build things like it. And I think, you know, it's kind of like a survey, isn't it? It's the same sort of technology, but a rather specialized sort of thing. And yes, so I really like it. Jed, are you back with us? Jed, looks like. Oh no, I think we're still seeing the previous. Jed, are you here?
Jed, you are muted.
Oh no, Jed, you're muted. That's all, I think.
I think I'm back. I've been getting...
You're back, and you're not muted. That's much better. Jed, so sorry, I filled in briefly there, but I think the first 10 seconds of you talking there. So you were starting to talk about mute, a commenting system. Is mute the correct pronunciation?
He joined again. I think there is a problem with the connection.
Oh, there's.
I think there is a problem with the screen sharing, probably.
Right. Am I back? I think so.
Yes, you're back, but you drop out if you start screen sharing again.
Oh. Okay. Well.
I definitely don't want to start anything else, because then we might not catch the next few seconds of Jed's connectivity.
Well, that's.
When he's got it.
I think this
is you're back.
I think yes.
Jed, we lost you and couldn't hear you for ages, and we've lost the screencast.
Okay. Well,
I have a horrible feeling it's struggling with the bandwidth of the screencast.
Well, it is. That is probably true.
Do you want to try sharing again and show us the mute stuff?
Let's see. Oh, it hasn't dropped out yet, I think. Okay. Is this all working now?
Yep, it's back. You can see the Resume builder again.
I'm going to assume that this isn't, because I can't hear anything. Anyway.
Can you hear me? No.
Oh, yes.
We can hear you, and we can see your screen, but if you're here, yeah, that looks good.
Well,
So you're just starting to talk about the mute comment system.
Oh, yes. Okay. So it does actually work on TiddlySpot. Like this right here is on the Wiki Reference Wiki, which is hosted on TiddlySpot. And the only things that you need are actually it's a small bit of JavaScript that you copy this tiddler, which is just that, and
yeah,
and to actually put in a comment thing, like you go to the Moot website and it's just a link like that, and right here you see the biggest problem that doesn't reload a script when you open it or something like that happens. In order to make those, you have to reload the site with work. And I know that Twitter has the same problem, but Twitter is a little JavaScript function that will reload. I don't know how it detects it, but it will reload it every time.
So you can explicitly. What we need here is a hook into the refresh process, so that after doing a refresh that involves changes, we invoke some function so that you've got a chance. So you've got a chance to call the thing and refresh it. So basically, a way to hook in.
So, but if that can be done, then there is a very simple and very easy way to add comments to a TiddlyWiki without needing access to a server or anything like that. And this is not reloading, so that's bad.
Oh no, hang on. There's no, I still don't see a JavaScript API. Oh no.
So, I don't know. I imagine that if we can actually convince the developers that it's worth it, we might be able to get them to do whatever Twitter did to automatically reload their own things without us having to add more to it. But I'm going to say that is a task for not right now, at least.
Well, I would encourage you to keep work on it. Having some kind of basic rough and ready comment support where people don't need to worry about spam, I think is quite a big deal. Because even when and if we do things like federation, being able to offer comments to open comments is actually quite hard work. It's something to do the spam protection. So I think being able to hook into these kinds of services, Discus being another one, is tremendously useful and worthwhile. But it seems like they've got more in the way of support for styling than they have for JavaScript.
Yes, I had actually looked into a few different commenting things before I got the hashover working on my site. And Discus almost works, but the problem with Discus is that it uses the URL of the page as its unique identifier, so you can't have comments on tiddlers. You could have comments on...
Can't you just make the comment be on the permalink?
I was that with Discus.
I'm sorry, second?
All the same comment threads when I tried that. I don't think there's any demo of that.
I mean, the other thing that crosses my mind is that doesn't matter for static versions. So I think quite an important use case for commenting is actually doing static renderings and enabling commenting on those.
Yes, that should be fine.
And that should work quite nicely. And I mean, in fact, exactly the same, just a bit of copying and pasting, I guess. But still, it'd be quite nice to signpost the way for people because, yes, I've just posted in the sidebar a link to a blog that I will now also add to the wiki. Oh, I think I got distracted before I added the last link, but about how to embed. So Discourse is a is a forum system that came out 18 months ago or so, done by Jeff Atwood. Got a lot of attention. Part of the attention was people crossed that it wasn't open source. It is open source now. And the blog post that I posted specifically addresses how to use it as a commenting system. It's relevant only because Sylvain, who I mentioned earlier, in Paris, well, outside Paris, is leading the TiddlyWiki community at the moment. He's done an implementation of Discourse for the French TiddlyWiki community, which I'm very pleased with because we always talk about experimenting beyond Google Groups. I don't feel that we could migrate to Discourse, partly because I don't want to run a Discourse instance, but really interested to watch this process, learn more about Discourse. And so therefore, that's why Discourse has popped up. And just as I say, this blog post indicates that it might work straightforwardly. But I think the problem maybe for you, Jed, is that with Discourse, the expectation is that you'd be running your own instance, and you probably don't want to be running your own instance of Discourse.
See, I think the only other interesting thing that I did, or that's really worth demoing right now, is the extended control panel thing that I'm working on. And this is just my attempt to expose more of the hundreds and hundreds of possible settings. And right now this is just focusing on CSS, and we have things that will change how select widgets look, and options where you can go through this menu and find whichever, like the close button, and we'll make it pink instead. And then it changes the close button to pink, and you can do that. I guess actually there's not all that much more to say about this.
Well, there's a couple of things I'd draw attention to. I think the navigation that you've got going on is really interesting. So the backwards and forwards stuff. And would you like to just talk about that, because you did post about it when you first did it?
Yes. Okay.
It's funny. You get very excited about things when you do them, and then 2 weeks later you present it as if it's the most ordinary thing in the world. And
yeah,
it's actually really cool.
Okay. Yes. So the navigation here is actually using the mobile menus, which I may not have ever demoed here. But yes, this is just a macro that I made that is set up, or you can set it up so that it is like the table of contents using a tag hierarchy, or you can set it up so the tiddler that is listed uses its list field to say whatever its children are. So like when you click on font settings, it'll bring you to the things that are listed in font settings. And right now this is using a tag hierarchy for all of the navigation. And then, tiddler body text. And what this does that people had mentioned wanting before, and I don't know if anybody had succeeded in making it or not yet, but is it preserves the path you use to get to wherever you are. So you can go back to things, and you can go back from there. And right in this one, it does not show it. But even if there are multiple paths to a particular tiddler, this will bring you back along how you got there instead of by some other path. This is that's a demo of a different thing that uses the same thing, but I think it'll work. And that does not work. Oh, there. So like for here, there's under audio, and then you can go to 8-bit, and then if it brings you back to audio, and then brings you back to here. Or you can go to microcontroller, and you can go to 8-bit, and when you go backwards, it brings you to microcontroller instead. But the tiddler 8-bit is in both situations, and that actually I have been the most useful part of setting things up this way. I mean, aside from the interface, which I use on my tablet because touch screens and me really do not get along, and I can use that as a way to navigate without breaking everything. And then, since I'm right here, I'll slide right into this one, which is a I have been trying to figure out well, and I think that this, at least is a promising approach to it. And what this does is it still uses a tag hierarchy to organize everything. But at each level, the only things that are shown are things that share or that have tags of all of its ancestors, not just its immediate parent. So
that's just so genius.
So here is the normal table of contents macro, where you have audio and you have 8-bit, and then under 8-bit you once again have audio, because you can tag everything with all of the relevant parts. But if I open up audio here, which I'm not going to do because my connection has been mean about reloading things, then you get an error and you get an infinitely long thing opening up because it keeps trying to open up audio, then 8-bit and audio and 8-bit forever. And also under 8-bit audio, you have NES audio, but a PIC-18 is a microcontroller and has absolutely nothing to do with an 8-bit audio or with 8-bit audio. And underneath microcontrollers here, you have NES audio, which does not fit there. But here, if you go, and once again, I don't want you to open. If you go to audio and then 8-bit, you only get things that are relevant to audio, and you don't get audio itself because only things that are tagged with both 8-bit and audio show up here. And then audio DSPs for things like that. But so this is something that I'm still trying to figure out. What I have here works, and I've actually used it in a few things. But I don't know. I am very open to suggestions. And,
well, the thing I'd like to say is how one of the things that's very exciting about this is the way that you're reusing this existing tag hierarchy. So this is like a drop-in upgrade for table of contents that people will be able to use with their existing table of contents if they've used the core macro. So I think that's really cool. It adds value to a lot of people's existing wikis. And I think the problem that it's solving, which is subtle, is also really important, because the ability to put items at different points in the hierarchy is one of the phenomenally, to me, the really flexible and attractive things about modeling hierarchy in this way, compared to an outliner, where in an outliner, in order to have a thing in the same place, you'd have to have some weird cloning or symlink function, and it would all suddenly seem like you're in a Unix file system. Whereas for us, I think this hierarchy model has borne out, is that the right word? Extremely well, and this is awesome. If you could switch to the extended control panel, which I also think is a tremendous piece of work and is fulfilling a really important void that we're already seeing that TiddlyWiki needs to support more customization than can go in the control panel. I think what you're showing here actually is that it already supports a whole bunch of customization that isn't accessible in the control panel. And so I really look forward to this being a plugin, and going back to what I was saying earlier with Felix's stuff, getting it into the plugin library so it's easily accessible to people. The only ever so tiny thought I have is if you click on one of those items to go down a level, so to speak, is that in terms of the presentation here, the distinction between the backlink for links and the 4 child links is obviously entirely down to boldness and the different icon. And I wonder slightly if there might be a bit of visual hierarchy, he says, and I'm not sure if that's the right phrase, that you might be able to impose to make the relationship clearer, because the links link, it kind of dismisses everything else. So it's in all of the things underneath somehow need to be shown in a subordinate way, conceivably. So I don't know whether, the way people format block quotes with a bit of indenting and a vertical bar, that kind of thing, maybe.
Yeah, that would be simple to do, and I imagine probably would make it a lot more straightforward to navigate through.
It'd make it copying. I always find development's easier when you're copying other people's stuff, because then all the difficult decisions are taken for you. But beautiful piece of work. I know that I droned on about this before, and we talked about it a bit, that Jed, I think when I asked you last time, you do identify as a developer, quite rightly, from the JavaScript work that I've seen of yours. But you also seem to spend quite a lot of time in the Wikitext domain, where you are, from the outside, it seems unusually productive. The number of times where your contribution to an existing debate, discussion has been to whip up a prototype. That's happened too frequently for me to not notice. And I remain very interested by things like Tiddly Resume, how quickly you manage to pull that kind of stuff together. I think you've got an adeptness that I'm really pleased to see.
Thank you. I don't know. It just makes sense, I suppose.
Well, but you can see how for me it's a validation of my work in a way that's really cool, because you're making something new, and that say you make from the outside look gratifyingly easy. You're able to express yourself in this form very clearly. So that's cool, and as I say, really want to get some of the stuff that you showed us into the plugin library, and once we get 5.19 out, focus a bit on getting over the kind of technical hassles to get that done in such a way that we can all still work, efficiently and without being held up by each other, which is the kind of danger of becoming integrated. I wanted to show one more thing, in the hope that I might be able to encourage the same. I'm so sorry. To encourage your. Okay, here we go. To encourage you to use your capabilities on a particular project. Sorry, Jed, I was in the background just trying to find a reference. So I'm just going to screen share. This is about another thing done by Paul Downey, actually. So after looking at Tiddly Resume, it reminded me of something else that Paul did, which is in turn based on some work from Natalie Down, which is a way of, I don't know if you can see here, of printing content on a sheet of paper such that with a single cut, which goes where my cursor is here, it turns into a pocketbook. And I don't know if, oh, here we go, pocketmod.com. There's a video. So here's a video of somebody folding one of these things up. I'm assuming this video is playing.
Yeah, it works.
With the Benny Hill music in the background. So you make your slit, and the idea is I remember people talking about using them for things like trips to foreign cities that you'd sort of download the information that you'd need during the day. And I certainly got carried away with carrying bits of paper in that shape around with me for a while. Paul did this Tiddly Pocketbook, and as you can see, it shows the 8 pages, and I can flip each one into edit mode and done. And the bit that's incredibly cunning is then when we print, it does all of the turning around, so that now when I print, I just need to cut and fold. So that's a print, sorry, that's a selective print style sheet. I always thought that was a wonderful piece of work. Obviously nowadays, I guess printers are getting less and less popular year by year, but because of the incredible tax on printer ink that we all withstand. But still, I thought it was pretty cool, and Jed might be right up your street.
It does look interesting, yeah. I will I'll look into that.
Being an Osmosoft thing, it's all Paul's work is BSD licensed or equivalent, and I know personally that he would be delighted if anybody was able to pick it up. And again, it makes a really nice addition because those pocket books are the kind of things that make a nice little photograph for people to share on social media, and an attractive thing. Printers are getting rare because of TiddlyWiki, yes. Well, I still use.
Jeremy, I also think in the ages of the Google Cardboard, where you have the printed visual reality thing for the phone, so maybe it will be interesting.
Yes. Well, I still use paper. I have paper notebooks that I carry around with myself, and I find, and I use TiddlyWiki all the time as well, but I use them for a slightly different thing. I find. Okay, guys, thank you so much for where we've got to so far. I'm not going to stop quite yet. Let's first just ask if anybody. We've had a lovely, very enjoyable run through Felix's work and Jed's work. Any thoughts or comments what they showed us in particular? Anything generally about any of that or any of the topics that we raised while we were cantering through all of that?
I have a very small, different topic. So,
would you like to introduce?
I share the link. It's about Google Groups discussion about the TiddlyWiki business cards information. I don't know if you have seen it. So if you click the link,
shall I screen share or will you?
Yes. No, you can screen share.
Okay, so that people in the future can see what's happening. Oh, of course. I'm so sorry. This was when I read this, it was absolutely in my mind to discuss it.
My question is, should we go on and experiment with it? So because the company I found, it's I don't know, €5 for about 100 business cards. So it would be interesting just to check if it works, and then release a TIFF that should work then with the different business card sizes. Because I thought the text should be a little bit bigger. So if you have you can share one if you click them. Yeah. So I thought the text below TiddlyWiki.com, so the different points, should be a little bit bigger.
Is there anything on the back of them?
Pardon?
Would there be anything on the back?
There could be. I didn't test it, so you could say, okay, brought to you by something, tralala. So it's the same thing, but then it costs double. So.
I think it's fine. I mean, it's a really funny. I don't know if I zoom in whether you can see. It's one of those very funny old-fashioned bitmaps made up, of a small number of colors. Which I rather like that old world look. I think it's great to me. So is the idea that we get a number printed with a few subscribers and then we send them out to the people who subscribe, or what?
No, I just was thinking about, because as you can see here, there is different business card sizes for different countries. So as usual, no size fits all.
Okay, great.
And I was experimenting a little bit with the TIFF file, just to make it big enough that it fits onto different sizes, because you always have some how is it called, the cut, so because it has to be cutted, and you have to be the picture itself has to be bigger, but then you have to take care with the text, so otherwise the text may be cut off and such things. But I wanted to release, let's say, one TIFF that should work for most of the card sizes. Then people can order them on your own.
Okay. Well, I've got another suggestion. Not another suggestion, but a typical Jeremy thing. That in Jeremy's head, the answer to everything is programming. Clearly, the technical problem here is that we need to produce this artwork at multiple different aspect ratios. and ideally so that the typography is responsive to whether it's a poster or a business card. So there are two fun ways that we could do that. We could make a responsive SVG, and I don't think that's as hard as it sounds. I think it means loading the image in an SVG editor, then making groups around the parts of the image that would need to be treated differently, saving it out as SVG. Then we can put IDs on them, and then we can, I think we can do media query CSS. In fact, that will move things around.
This will be possible, but there is some tricky things with printing. In normal cases, with a PC, you have 72 pixels per inch or something like this, and printing they need at least 320 and up.
No, but you see what we can do with an SVG. Well, we can render it to a we could render to a canvas, but the thing about Macs that is slightly annoying that it's so unique to Macs because it's so useful is that I've got really good quality print to. I can convert to PDF.
Yes, you can convert to PDF. You also, as Mark stated in the chat window, you have also the different color range. Yeah. But there is one thing which is really interesting. I would like to have a custom rendering with .svg and don't render it to TiddlyWiki text, but render it to a canvas. This would be a completely different thing, which I would also need. So then we can say, okay, save this as, I don't know, bitmap or JPEG or whatever.
Yeah, wouldn't that be useful? Yeah.
Yeah. So we already have the typed blocks. So you have this $.svg, and then it's standard rendered to HTML. And it would be nice to have this rendered to the canvas, and which give it the pixel size or whatever. And then we could say, okay, create it, and then they say right-click, download the link, and use it for printing production.
Amazingly, there is at least one JavaScript library that renders a chunk of the DOM into a canvas. And they're popular because people, I think YouTube used one at one point as a support feature to allow people to basically send a screenshot of the page they were on to illustrate a problem. So astonishingly, it seems that one can do a reasonable job just by parsing an existing DOM layout. I'm not parsing, sorry, walking through an existing DOM layout. So I think that's eminently possible. It's another of those things that's just a library away. Excitingly. We do need to draw towards the close now. But before we do, I did just want to we didn't get a chance to have a decent discussion about it, but I just wanted to bring up Jed's posting again. Jed, I don't mean to embarrass you. Do you mind?
No, not at all.
So I had two reasons to bring it up. There's a link. It's in the Hangout. There's a link to its original context in the group, and it's a chunk of something that Jed was saying. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. But there were two things, I guess, I wanted to pick up. One was that Jed, it's a really good bit of writing. I think that we have many of us in TiddlyWiki with all kinds of different skills. There's relatively few people who've been involved with the project who have the apparent aptitude for writing that you have. And I really appreciated what you were saying here. It's a nice, very personal statement of something roughly that we've said before on here, that TiddlyWiki exercises a great appeal for a small number of people, and the challenge of widening it, and indeed the danger of alienating its core audience in the process. I wanted to just say that for me personally, there's been so many Hangouts where we've discussed that. But for me personally, it's become a bit clearer what I need to do. So that's what I need to do to address TiddlyWiki's popularity, if you see what I mean. I've got a really good answer now, and that it's to continue to focus on making TiddlyWiki as high quality as possible, but to make sure that it appeals to the people who have an aptitude for it. So I think my job is to do a good job of TiddlyWiki and make it recognizable for people like the people on this call, I guess, who in some sense recognized in TiddlyWiki something that reflected their own interests or way of thinking or something like that. So that my job, in other words, is to gather the TiddlyWiki community, the people who are intrinsically interested in TiddlyWiki itself. And the reason why we need editions of TiddlyWiki is to reach everybody else. So that means that for the next chunk of time, I think a big, an important part of what I've got to do is focus on getting the editions out there. In order to get the editions out there, we need to get the plugins out there. Sorry, by community editions and community plugins that we need to get out there. Secondly, I need to continue, hopefully, to improve the quality of the product itself. Nathan, hello. We've just been joined by Nathan Kane. We're actually coming to a close, but it's still terrific to see you. Very glad you could join us. Do you have a microphone, Nathan?
Yes, hello.
Hello, how are you doing? Would you like to introduce yourself as if we were right at the beginning?
I'm good. Hi, I'm Nathan Kane. I'm a developer from the United States. I've been working with TiddlyWiki 5 for a little over a year now, and glad to be on a Hangout again. It's been quite a few weeks.
Well, I'm really sorry, really glad you could join us, but sorry that you missed a great session. I'm having to draw to a close now. One of the things that I'm going to buzz off and do is hopefully the release of 5.1.9, but got some other things to do first, in fact. So we were just drawing to a close with, you may have just caught the fag end of it, of a discussion about prompted by a very articulate posting of Jed's, and oh, now my screen suddenly made my face light. Oh, it's gone. And oh, it's because I switched to something with a bright. Yeah, never mind. And I just wanted to say this thing about there aren't enough writers in TiddlyWiki. We all, and this includes me, need to. Well, it would be great if we could all write more about TiddlyWiki for the right audiences, and maybe editions is the right way of doing that. You know, maybe for Felix to be writing about TiddlyWiki for people in the mind mapping community. You know, that maybe. Oh, and you know, obviously Felix has been making videos for the mind mapping community, which is also a great thing. But guys, I say, well, Nathan, are you? We haven't seen you on Hangouts for a while. Might we see you again if we manage another Hangout in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah. Have you been doing the Tuesday Hangout still?
No, actually, I don't think there's been a Tuesday Hangout for a couple of months. I've been much more busy with day jobby stuff in the week, and so no. I mean, in fact, now we've completely moved from the regular Tuesday Hangouts, and I think we've been lucky to get a Hangout a month. And as is typical, this one was only 24 hours notice, I'm afraid.
Yeah, the Saturday Hangouts are just a little bit early for me for Saturday.
Yes, no, I appreciate it. I think what I need to try to do is that there's a to have a Hangout a bit later, the 7 o'clock UK time, something like that. And I particularly now that life's got a bit busier, I will be agile in finding slots that could fit a Hangout and try and have them at funny times. I've been traveling a bit, and one of the things that did occur to me is that, of course, when one's traveling, as long as one's got a decent internet connection, then that's a brilliant opportunity to do a Hangout. A much better thing to do stuck in a hotel than reading a book or more programming. So Nathan, I hope we will over the next few weeks have more hangouts, and yes, sorry not to be able to hang around here. What we'll do is close the broadcast, but before I do that, I'd like to thank everybody very much for their time today. I don't know why, but I think I particularly enjoyed today's hangout. I think it's because there was a nice focus on looking at other people's work, which I always hugely enjoy, and it's always a pleasure to see so many of the key contributors of TiddlyWiki able to make it, especially at mad short notice like this. So thank you very much. I'm incredibly grateful to you for the time and attention that you sacrifice, and say it's been really fun. So let's wave goodbye to everybody at home. Thank you very much, and I'll press the stop broadcast button. Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.